Hello everyone and welcome to another video. Today we will be talking about types of measurement scales. So in your daily life, you are actually dealing with different types of data, such as when you go to the bank, you are dealing with currency. When you're cooking, you're dealing with grams of ingredients. When you're filling in a form, you're telling people whether you're male or female or which school did you go to. When you go to the gas station, you are dealing with liters of gas. So all of this is actually data that you'll deal with on an everyday level. As a researcher, and especially if you're doing quantitative research, you will gather a lot of quantitative data, and this quantitative data can be uh, can be mapped out to 4 different types of measurement scale. The reason why you need to identify this as a researcher especially is that if you identify it to be in the wrong measurement scale, then you might choose the inappropriate data analysis to conduct for the data that you have. And this means that the result that you find might not be valid. So if you are going to be working with quantitative data, please do get to know these 4 different types of measurement scale and find out which which scale your data is on. So there are 4 types of measurement scale, which is nominal, ordinal, interval, and ratio. So I will explain to you one by one what each measurement scale means. This is the outline of the slide that I will be working with, and I will explain to you what is nominal, ordinal, interval, and ratio scale. Right, let's first go to nominal scale. Right, nominal scale, the root word of nominal is name. So just think nominal name. And it is just used for identification purposes only, and is also only qualitatively different from one another. Nominal scale is also discrete, where you cannot divide it to form fractions. You can just gather the data and find out how many people are this, how many people are that. So an example of data that might be on a nominal scale, that is on a nominal scale, not might be, is gender, which is 1 male, 2 female, or ethnicity, Malay, Chinese, Indian, or where you studied to get your degree, such as UTM, USM, and other universities out there. This is usually used in many surveys, especially in educational research and actually in many other fields where the researcher wants to find out about the sample of the study, who are the people that is answering the survey form. So I just want to highlight here that when you give a number, say male is 1, female is 2. Say a person takes female and gives it 2. So 2, it does not indicate that she is better than 1, okay? 2 is just a number that you give to say that, okay, 2 refers to female and 1 refers to male. So same as Malay, Chinese, Indian, if a person picks 3, it doesn't mean that he or she is better than 2 and 1. Okay, so when we talk about nominal, the root word is name, and it just is qualitatively different from one another, and it's just for identification purposes only. Okay, so let's move on to the next slide, which is ordinal scale. Okay, our next measurement scale is the ordinal scale. So when you think of the ordinal scale, just think of order. That's the root word for ordinal. So it's like one, two, three, or first, second, third, but you don't know the distance between each number. Things on an ordinal scale is discrete, where you cannot divide it to form fractions. For example, data in an ordinal scale is the order of students in a classroom. So I don't know about you guys, but when I was in school, our teacher would order us based on our examination results. So we had the person who got number 1, he is the best performing student in the class, and then number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, so on. And at the end of the year, we'll know what number you are in that classroom. But the thing about this order is that you don't know the distance between the first student and the second student. What is meaning that the first student, maybe his overall score is maybe 97%, and then the second student might be further down and he might be maybe 83%, and then the third student, maybe he is quite close to the second student, and he or she might get maybe around maybe 80%, and then the fourth student maybe about 77%. So what I'm highlighting here is that when you order that student, you don't know the distance, how far is the mark between student number one, number two, number three, and number four. And this goes the same for such as when you go for like a race or a marathon. The first person to finish the race and the second person to finish the race might be a very small gap as compared to the second and the third person to finish that race. So another thing that is on the ordinal scale is also the Likert scale, and this scale is usually used a lot in educational research, which is this ranking that you have, which is like strongly agree, agree, neutral, disagree, strongly, disagree. So the problem with the Likert scale is that you are not entirely sure how that value is being placed. When your respondents give a 4, uh, is that feeling that that respondent has towards that 4, is it the same as another person who labels it as 4? And then you are not sure what is the distance between 5 and 4, 4 and 3. You are just kind of giving a value towards uh, strongly agree and saying that there's a gap, but it's not clear how far that gap is. So this is for the Likert scale. Okay, our next scale is the interval scale. So when we talk about the interval scale, we are actually talking about an actual amount that separates the scores. As compared to ordinal, we are not sure about the amount that separates the scores for interval scale. You are sure of the actual amount that separates the scores. However, things on an interval scale has no true zero. So, for example, you can take as temperature when you give it as 0 degrees Celsius. It doesn't mean that no heat exists, but it just means that it is recorded as 0 degrees Celsius. The interval scale is continuous, so it can be divided. And other examples of the interval scale is, for example, time. 12 o'clock midnight. Midnight is 0000, right? But just because it's 000, it doesn't mean that there's no time. It's just that it's being labeled as 000 for that particular time. And then the other example is temperature. Other examples are also such as IQ test, EQ test. Those things are considered to be on the interval scale. Many things is also in educational research, but also used in scientific research. Okay, our final scale is the ratio scale. So the ratio scale is a lot like the interval scale. It also reflects the amount of the variable, and it measures an actual amount. However, 0 really means 0. So for this type of scale, it is continuous and it can be divided. And examples are such as distance, weight, speed. So when we talk about distance, we talk about 0 kilometers per hour. That really means that it's 0. When we talk about weight, when it's 0 grams, it's really 0. When we talk about when we talk about distance, if it's 1 kilometer, it's 0 centimeter, then it's really 0. When we talk about speed, if it's 0 kilometers per hour, then it's really 0 kilometers per hour. And then also for these types of data, it's also continuous. So there's 1.2, 1.3, 1.45 centimeters. So this indicates that it is something within the ratio scale. So the ratio scale is usually used in educational research, especially when you are testing your students' capabilities in mathematics or English. So you can, when they get 0 in the test, then they really get 0 in the test. Whatever score that they get, that truly measures an actual amount on how well they did in that test. Um, it is also used a lot in true experimental research in biology, science, chemistry, physics, and also, as I mentioned just now, in scientific research, and maybe in other experimental research, such as in bioscience, in sports science. So the ratio scale is used a lot in many different types of research. But as educational researchers, we deal a lot with, I would say, ordinal scale, because we use a lot of the Likert scale, and we also deal with a lot of testing our sample. That will be the ratio scale. And if we are interested in testing IQ, EQ, that will refer to the interval scale. So the nominal scale is usually just for identification purposes, to identify who your sample is for your study. Uh, so why is this important? You need to identify what scale your data is in, because that will help you to decide the best type of data analysis that you need to conduct in order to analyze the data that you have. So when you have things in a nominal and ordinal scale, you can only conduct non-parametric analysis. Whereas if you have things in an interval or ratio scale, you can conduct parametric analysis, but only once all of the assumptions are fulfilled, which we will go into later in the coming weeks. So this is it. This is all that's about types of scale. I hope you get the general idea. So the next thing that I would like you guys to do is to do the task and submit this in your e-learning. So see you again. Bye.